I'm Charlie Watson. I'm 18. Today, actually. Is the Beetle for sale?
It's yours, kid. Happy birthday.
And welcome to episode 28 of the DNA Film Wars podcast. Today we are reviewing the film Bumblebee, directed by Travis Knight, written by Christina Hodson, and starring Hailee Steinfeld, Jorge Lendenborg Jr., and Cena.
John Cena.
Who you can technically see in this film. I thought you weren't supposed to be able to see John Cena.
You can't see me?
Wasn't that a meme or something?
Yeah, that's his big thing back in the day. You can't see me. Always shoving his hand in his face. You know, it's whatever.
Anyway.
What'd you think about this?
I really liked it. I'll go ahead and say it is by a good margin the best Transformers movie. Not that that's a big accomplishment.
There's no lie there. It's really fun. I really enjoyed this one. I liked it a lot.
I really loved it, but we'll talk more about in specifics why I loved it here in a little bit. You got the same opinion?
Oh yeah, this is a really good movie. It's like you said, it's by far the best Transformers movie to date. No big accomplishment there, no big feat, since none of the other ones are necessarily great films by any stretch of the imagination. But this one's a really fun time, and I had a great time with it. So.
All right, so getting into my opinion on the story, I really like the story here. I mean, obviously, it's it's an E.T. ripoff. I mean, you know,
a little bit, yeah.
Strange creature comes to Earth, some kid finds it, blah 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 blah. But it's a good E.T. ripoff. I like the chemistry, I guess, quote unquote, of Hailee Steinfeld and
a CGI car.
A CGI car, walking talking car. I like the stripped down version of Transformers.
It's not bloated at all.
It's not really bloated. We don't have a ton of characters. I really like the beginning. The movie opens up with the war on Cybertron and our Autobots escaping. We see Optimus. We see Bumblebee. We see some Hatchet. I noticed. I figure one of them was probably Ironhide. We see most of our classic Autobots. We see most of the classic Decepticons, with the notable exception of Megatron, who is not seen in this film. But and they're all got their classic cartoon looks. And anyway, Bumblebee escapes and Optimus escapes and everything. And he goes to Earth. He gets his voice box ripped out by an evil Decepticon.
Starscream.
Is that the Starscream?
Yeah, it's Starscream.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's Starscream.
Starscream rips his voice box out. All right, no, it can't be Starscream.
It is. It's Starscream.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know?
Because it's classic Starscream look.
Well, yeah, but there's like three of them. Because he blows him up. I don't think they blow Starscream up that early in the franchise.
That's fair.
Hold on, let me see. Blitzwing. So anyway, Blitzwing, not Starscream, attacks Bumblebee.
All looks the same.
They kind of do. Rips out his voice box, but then Bumblebee blows up Blitzwing with one of his own missiles. And anyway, so then he is damaged. He loses his memory. And he goes into hiding as a little beetle, and he's found by Hailee Steinfeld, whose character name is
Charlie Watson.
And anyway, they form a close bond, and then they do some running from the military. B gets taken by the military, tortured by a couple of Decepticons, regains his memory, gets ticked off, and goes and
becomes a savage.
Kills said Decepticons while Hailee Steinfeld stops the tower from sending out their message. And at the very end of the movie, we see Optimus and the other Autobots arrive on Earth. So, first thing I want to talk about, not really a pro or con, I was led to believe that this movie was going to try to say that it was in the same continuity as the other films. And they do keep some things, like they keep Sector 7 is a thing in this movie, which you'll remember from the past films. They keep Bumblebee is smaller, but as far as like his...
Basically looks the same, yeah.
Same basic design. And I don't know, what's some other things they keep in line? Like he turns into a Camaro, the Camaro that we see in the first Transformers.
At the
movie.
very end of the movie, he turns into Camaro.
He turns into that Camaro. He turns into Camaro.
Into that Camaro.
And
from the beginning of the first Transformers.
But there's no way that they can say this is in the same continuity as the other
From what I'm
films.
understanding, I think this is supposed to be what they want to consider a quote-unquote prequel reboot. Which I wouldn't,
a soft reboot.
I wouldn't be upset if this is. I mean, yeah, even if it's a soft reboot, I wouldn't be upset if this is the beginning of a different direction for the Transformers franchise. Because if this is the direction they take, it's got a lot more potential than those first films. By a long shot.
They need to just forget those last films happened and use
And
it
it's a really good
launch
point
point.
to start, considering the fact that there's some stuff that happens at all. I mean, I guess I can talk about it, or you can talk about it in your story section, but we'll get into those later. Never mind. I'll talk about those here in a minute. So.
Yeah, but I think they should just use this as a launch board. I don't think they need to go back and try to tie it in with those other films, because those other films don't even tie together very well. If you look at part 1 through 5, I mean, especially towards the end there, I mean, they really just get all jumbled up. So I think they just should just move on with a new franchise, starting with this one. But I like the story. I really like Hailee Steinfeld's character in this one. Her boyfriend, they're not really boyfriend.
The kid who likes her.
The kid who likes her, he's alright. I mean, he's not necessarily necessary, but he's alright.
He doesn't drag the story down, though.
But he doesn't drag the story down. The weak point of the story, I think, is John Cena's subplot. Him and the military guys he's around it's kind of a goofy. They're goofy characters, and I mean they know they're goofy and they play that up. I don't really care for that subplot that much. I don't really care for John Cena's character in this movie. But I do like the Decepticons, whose name I am...
Dropkick and like Shatter or something like that.
So yeah, I'm sure Dylan can Google that while I talk.
Yeah, Shatter and Dropkick, played by Angela Bassett and Justin Theroux.
Yeah, they're pretty menacing Decepticons, and
I like them.
I like especially
they do a triple
Shatter.
Transform at one point in time.
Yeah, they go from cars to helicopter to flying vehicles to.
Well, they go from plane and a helicopter to cars to full form Decepticon robots and.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think we've ever seen in a Transformers film where a Transformer can have two.
I didn't know that was
forms
a thing.
at once. I think it's something they kind of fudged for this movie, but that's okay. It didn't bother me. It kind of makes sense. Like they could store more than one form in their memory banks.
That's kind of cool.
But I really liked everything to do with them. I think it's a well-written film. I didn't have any, like I said, no major issues other than maybe some stuff with the military guys. As far as plot holes go, there's not really...
Maybe a couple minor ones.
But nothing that really, bugged the heck out of me. I'd say my big one is at the end, when she kind of all of a sudden, I think, decides that she has to leave B behind. I did not really get from the movie that she had reconnected with her parents and her family so much that she felt like it was time for her to leave B behind. If I was in her position, I'd have been like, I'm going with Bumblebee and having fun adventures, not going back to my family. I didn't really feel like that was an earned decision there, because her family kind of treats her like crap for most of this movie. I didn't really understand why she felt that. Maybe she felt a really good connection with Memo. His name is Memo in this movie. Mm-hmm. That was kind of weird, but overall, though, I think it's well written. I really enjoyed it. I had a fun time with this movie. I'll give this story 3.5 stars.
All right. Well, I'm pretty much on the same page with you. I mean, this movie's a really fun time. I mean, I don't know how much more enjoyment you could get out of this for a Transformers movie. This story is very well written, though it does have some callbacks that are reminiscent. Please stop that. Some callbacks that are reminiscent of E.T. It doesn't bother me in any way. The callbacks that it does have are they're good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really like how we start off this movie, like you said, with the war on Cybertron. I think it's a really great way to start out the film, just jumping straight into the action. That really shows a lot of talent from this director who's never directed a live action movie. I think that's really bold, jumping straight into some hardcore action right there at the very opening.
To be fair, that's not really live action. That's more, it looks more CG animated.
CG, but it's whatever. It's still pretty impressive and pretty bold. As far as a first-time live-action movie director goes. But, I mean, there are a lot of great aspects. I mean, after that, we flash forward to Bumblebee, or not flash forward, he escapes Cybertron and ends up on Earth where he runs into John Cena.
We should point out this is in 1987.
Yes, this is in 1987. runs into John Cena and his whole group of people, and they're all doing a training exercise. And then,
do military people really do paintball exercises in the woods?
I don't know. They're not military. They're Sector 7.
That's true. Sector 7.
Sector 7. But I mean, after that, he loses his voice box, and then he becomes a beetle. And I think we flash forward a couple months. I'm guessing what's a couple months or so, and Hailee Steinfeld is living her life, and it's the day before her 18th birthday, and we really start to feel how this family dynamic is between her and her mother and her stepfather, because her father has passed away, who she had a really strong bond and connection with, and I think that that's really great character building for her and lays a really good foundation for her backstory as to why she feels the way that she does about all this situation. So we really start to get that conflict in that family, and I think that's a really great aspect of this film, as well as like I said, that aspect where how she feels that deep connection to her father. We learn later on in the film that she was a diver, and the last time she saw her father was during her last dive meet, and she hasn't dove since.
I would like to point out just real quick, I forgot to mention this. They set up this whole thing that she's afraid to dive again for some weird reason. I didn't really understand that, because her father dying had nothing to do with her diving. It was just that the last time she saw him was at a dive meet. And then they had this kind of contrived thing where they make it kind of pay off, where she has to dive in the water at the end. Although I thought she could have just as easily jumped in the water. There was really no diving required. But anyway.
It's whatever. But I mean, she had this really strong bond with her father, and that causes a lot of turmoil within her family. And we go and we find Bumblebee, who she doesn't know is Bumblebee yet. She gets him running, takes him home, and begins to work on him, where he reveals himself to her. And from there, we just go on this fun adventure. I do agree with you on the John Cena storyline. I don't think he's a very strong aspect of this, but true to Transformers' nature since the first 2007 Michael Bay film, there's always some sort of
military subplot.
quote-unquote military subplot, yeah, and I think that's why they included this in the film. I don't think it necessarily hurts the film in any way. I mean, it does drive the plot forward to a degree. We probably could have lived without it and found another way to drive the plot forward in some other way, but I don't have a huge problem with it. I mean, I enjoy it. John Cena's not the greatest part of this movie. His character's okay, but I really like the third act and the finale of this film. After Bumblebee, really, I think it really all starts when they first try to capture Bumblebee, and they take him to the military base, and Charlie and Memo have both been taken home after they've been knocked out or whatever, and they end up at home, and then Charlie sneaks out and tries to save Bumblebee, and then we have our big ending action sequence, which has some really good action that's actually comprehensible, and you can understand what's going on. It doesn't look like a big old blur of CGI mess. There's some pretty cool shots of Bumblebee killing these Decepticons that are really good, and then we have the come full circle where Charlie has to dive into the water to save Bumblebee or whatever. But I mean, overall, I really enjoy this movie. I think it's a very well written film. It's probably the best written film of the entire Transformers franchise. I'll give this story 4 stars.
All right. Going into acting, Hailee Steinfeld does a really good job in this. I think she pulls off her character very well. No problems there. John Cena's not great.
He's John Cena.
He's John Cena. He's not a great actor, but he's passable in his role. What's the boyfriend's name? I forgot.
He is played by Jorge Lendenborg, I believe.
Yeah, whatever. He's
Jorge Lendenborg
he's
Jr.
pretty good for his role. The voice acting for Bumblebee, what little there is, and
done by Dylan O'Brien.
For Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime, obviously they all do a good job. So is that all the major actors? I think that's all the major.
Angela Bassett is Shatter, just DeBarros Dropkick or whatever.
They're really good. Especially Angela Bassett. I think she's really good and sound menacing in this movie. And the Doctor, who's played by John Orris, he does an alright job. I find it interesting that his name is Powell. I wonder if that's some sort of criticism on Secretary Powell. Anyway, delving into politics, we'll delve right back out. Obviously, there is like a kind of not serious tone going throughout this movie. I mean, they never get real dark with this movie.
No.
And the actors are good at not, ever going too dark with their characters. And John Cena and John Orts, they're kind of hamming it up, but It kind of fits the roles. So acting overall, I'll give 3.5 stars, mostly on the strength of Hailee Steinfeld's performance.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Hailee Steinfeld is really good in this film. I think she does an excellent job. She's been excellent in pretty much all the things I've seen her in. She was really good in the remake of True Grit. She's excellent, absolutely excellent in The Edge of 17, which came out a couple years ago. That was a really great film. Really calls back to like the John Hughes era of films. You know, those 80s Brat Pack kind of movies. Kind of really feels like that. She did a great job with that. I really enjoyed her performance in this. I think she really, really does a great job with everything she's given. She pulls off those emotions of being kind of a little bit of an angsty teen, kind of rebelling, but not at the same time because no one understands what she's going through and dealing with the loss of her father. I think she does a great job conveying that. John Lendenborg he's good. He's entertaining to a degree. He's not in the movie a ridiculous amount. It doesn't have this movie doesn't have like an overload of characters, and I think that really helps the film. And we really focus on Charlie and B most of the movie, and I think that's what helps this movie a lot. John Cena's John Cena. He's there hamming it up as this military Sector 7 guy, and so is John Oritz or whatever. He does all right for what he's given. I mean, I really enjoyed it. The voice acting's great on Dylan O'Brien's part. I mean, what little voice acting he does at the beginning. He was announced really late in production that we found out that he was going to be voicing B, and I was like, all right, that's fair.
Because he only says about 5 sentences.
Yeah, that's true. I think Peter Cullen is great as always as Optimus. I mean, that's a classic voice that you'll never forget. Angela Bassett's great as Shatter. I think she really, like you said, really pulls off that menacing tone, makes you think that she's this big baddie, and she pulls it off well. So I'll give the acting, I'll give it 3.5 stars too, just because John Cena drags it down just a little bit, but Hailee Steinfeld's excellent. So
Hodgepodge, obviously, big thing is how is the CGI. I think the CGI in this movie is great. Like I was talking about, this interaction between I thought the chemistry between Hailee Steinfeld and Bumblebee as well, and the interaction between the CGI Bumblebee and Hailee Steinfeld is done really well. I never thought it kind of really looked cheesy when they were touching each other or anything. I was afraid, like, when she was, like, putting her hands on him or something, or when they were when she was hugging him or stuff.
It would look a little rough.
It'd look a little rough. But I didn't notice anything looked odd. I think on purpose, it does look a little cartoonish, like when they're on Cybertron, but I think that's on purpose. I think that's a stylistic choice, not a drawback of the CGI. But I think all the battle scenes and everything looks pretty good. The scene that you see in the trailer where Hailee Steinfeld is running towards the camera while
there's a bunch of actions happening behind her.
While there's a bunch of action happening behind her while Bumblebee and the blue guy are fighting. I mean, it's obvious he's running in front of his green screen, but it's not that bad. So, but other than that, I think everything is done really well. Soundtrack is an 80s soundtrack.
It's great.
It's good. I enjoyed it. You know, all the callbacks and everything. What else is there important?
Direction
is good. Oh, direction from Travis Knight, who has not directed a live action movie before. I really like his direction there. I think all the action scenes, he directed the action scenes way better than Michael Bay.
They're comprehensible.
As far as being comprehensible. Now, Michael Bay, don't get me wrong, can set up an action set. But as far as being comprehensible with the CGI robots fighting each other, I think Travis Knight does a much better job. And
maybe that comes from his animation background. You never know.
I think that, yeah, because I think a lot of his animation, with Kubo and the Two Strings, which we talked about, which I really liked.
Paranorman too.
Those are stop motion claymation film, which is different, I would imagine, than CGI.
For sure.
I watched something where he was talking about it. It's quite a bit different because you're having to do frame by frame shots and everything, which I'm sure is very difficult. But he does really well with the CGI in this movie. I'm sure that was a passion of his to make sure he got the CGI right, coming from an animation background. And I think he did a really good job, not only with the animated parts of this movie, but with the live action people and actors as well. He got good performances out of pretty much everybody except for John Cena, which I keep harping on John Cena. John Cena's not terrible. He's just
John Cena.
He's just John Cena.
He hams it up.
Yeah, hams it up quite a bit. I mean, overall, Hodgepodge section, I'll probably give 4 stars.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page as you. I think it's really, really amazing that someone who's never directed a live action film can come into a project and something that so many people love as much as Transformers and really give us such a great movie, and how he can helm these action scenes in a way that a person who doesn't have a live action background can do. He did such a great job with it. I mean, it looks great. It's definitely the most comprehensible CGI and action scenes I've ever seen in a Transformers movie, which is saying quite a bit because almost none of those movies are comprehensible, and I can clearly tell what's happening most of the time during this movie. CGI is excellent. I mean, it's 2018. If CGI looks bad, there's no excuse for that, as with the computer technology we have nowadays. I'm really impressed with how this movie turned out. Score is good. That 80s soundtrack is killer throughout this entire movie. I had such a great time every time a new song played. I was like, oh, I freaking love this song. I had such a great time with this movie. It's so well directed, so well put together. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'll give the Hodgepodge section 4 stars too.
All right, so
let's get into our overall thoughts on this movie.
Overall, this is by far the best Transformers movie. I had a really fun time with it. No major gripes about this movie. It's under 2 hours, which I think
that's one of the best things about this movie is that it's fast paced,
and
it's not dragged down by a freaking 2.5 hour long runtime.
Yeah, not overbloated with characters and subplots and everything. There's really only.
I mean, even that first movie is 2 hours and 24 minutes. I mean, and the fact that we went from 2 hours and 24 minutes, and then our longest Transformers movie is almost 3 hours long is ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no need for that. And I think Travis Knight understood that was part of the problem. Cut this thing way down. And
it's a cool, crisp hour 55.
Yeah. So, and you know what? Because I'll say that ever since I've gotten into Transformers, Bumblebee has always been my favorite Transformer, even over Optimus Prime. I know that's probably sacrilegious, but so I'm really glad that they done him justice here, and because of that, I think I'll round up and give this movie 4 stars.
All right. I definitely agree with you. This movie is just such a fun time. It is 100% the best Transformers movie to date. So, I mean, if that doesn't tell you anything about both of our opinions and where we're going to put it in our rankings, it's number 1.
Number 1.
It is the best well-made, best written, best acted, probably, film of the entire series. And I think they really did these characters a lot of justice. And they really did the fans a lot of justice with this movie. The fans of the original animated series and that original animated movie, I think most of them really enjoyed this film. I mean, I know that there were a lot of people in our audience that had definitely been fans of the original, and you could tell because like every time a character that was in the original cartoon came out on screen, you could hear him like clapping or cheering.
Yeah, I mean, really, because
and a couple times it got a little annoying, but
there was only like, I don't know, less than 10 people, about 10 people in our theater, and there's this one guy who was like, "Yeah, whoa, let's go."
He was having a good time.
Shut up.
But I mean, I gotta get a lot of props to Travis Knight, someone who's never done a live action movie, coming in and doing this. He did such an excellent job, and I really have to give props to the writer of this film, whose name is escaping me right now.
Christina
Hodson, who doesn't have a whole lot of credited writing credits. She wrote this film, a 2016 film called Shut In, and Unforgivable, and I believe she's writing that new Birds of Prey movie that's going to be about Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and some other Gotham City people. She's writing that, but
I do not envy that task.
She's got basically 3 movies under her belt, and I mean, for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of writing credits, I'm really impressed with what she was able to come up with for this movie. So I mean, I got to give a lot of props to the director and the writer of this film. They did such an amazing job. I thoroughly enjoyed everything about it. It's a really fun time. I'm gonna give it 4 stars too.
All right. Well, with all that being said, what do we got coming up?
I think after this, we will have a discussion, or we should have a review for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, followed by a discussion episode for Aquaman and Mary Poppins Returns, in which we will be ranking the DCEU films, which will be a chore, even though there's only a few of them.
Yeah.
There are some not good movies in there.
There are some really bad movies. Also, towards the beginning of the year, we will have a Holmes and Watson review,
as well as a review for Escape Room, which will probably.
And this January, we will also be starting our Star Wars look back, and we will be beginning with Episode 1 because we are going in chronological order, not in order of release. So, Episode 1, Phantom Menace. Also, a movie that's coming out this January that I think that'll probably be the big hit of January, of course, is Glass.
That'll be coming out soon.
Looking forward to seeing that and reviewing it.
We got a lot of big stuff. We'll also have our year-end episode that you can look forward to, where we'll talk about our top 5 best movies of the year, top 5 worst. We'll talk about
most overrated,
and most underrated as well. And then you can look for our New Year's episode where we'll be talking about our most anticipated movies of the new year, maybe least anticipated movies of the new year, as well as our top 5 hopes and goals for our podcast in the new year.
Yep. So with all that being said, I'm Aaron.
We didn't plug social medias and anything.
I'm
We didn't do
sorry.
that in the last one either.
Darn it.
Oh well.
We'll just plug them right now then.
As always, you got to plug those social medias. We are at DNA Film Wars, all lowercase, no space, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So go ahead and give us a like or a follow there.
Yeah, if you have any specific questions and or comments, you can contact us at dnafilmwars@gmail.com. Please feel free to leave us a review on any of the podcasting sites that we are up on, which is most of them.
If you can't find us on one of those, as always, we are up on YouTube with our audio files, soon to be video files in the new year. So keep a lookout for that.
Yeah, so with all that being said, now I'm Aaron.
I'm Dylan, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bumblebee, there is only one way to end this war. You must protect Earth and its people. Take it down!
My backseat! This is how we stop them. You've got me. And I'm not going anywhere.